Hello, CUT Collective. It's Reverend Sheree here with another Sunday Sermon Rewind. We are in a powerful series called Unleash Your Inner Powers, and this is the fourth in that series. We're dealing with the power of wisdom. The wisdom to succeed is the title of the lesson sermon, and it was given by the Reverend Gaylon McDowell. And so we're going to dive in with the hardcore metaphysician. I just want to thank you for being here, reminding you that the CUT Collective is the online ministry for Christ Universal Temple. And our intent, our purpose here is to build community for those of us who are connecting digitally. So that doesn't matter where you live. If you're in the greater Chicago area, oh, that's wonderful. Click on in. But if you're outside of Chicago and you are connected to CUT through YouTube, Facebook, or however you are connected with the ministry, I just want to say welcome. This place is for you. And what I'm open and available for is any questions that you have for the ministers. So after Sunday, you can come to our private Facebook group. The Facebook group is the CUT Collective, the CUT Collective Worldwide. And you can ask questions about the sermon or tell me your favorite part, and I'll be sure to pull clips from that segment. Okay, so without further ado, let me bring in the minister. Come on in, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Good morning. See, we're on a little early today, right? I'm on East Coast time.
That helps.
It does help a little bit. It does. But welcome. I see that Dot is in. Hey, Dot is in. She'll pull all the people into the live. So I want to say what's up to you, and really let's pray for real quick, and then I want to dive right into something that you did that I thought was really great, which was kind of setting a clear intent and helping us to all be on the same page as it relates to why are we studying these 12 powers. And so I just want to give thanks and praise for this gathering, for this time, for this space, for us to grow spiritually. I'm so grateful that God is right here, mighty in the midst of each and every one of us. And I just bless this experience. I know that the words spoken are going to be food for the soul for those who are listening. I trust that something said is going to be the transformation word that someone needed. The revelations are going to come as a result of this word, and I'm grateful for that. I release this prayer in the name, nature, and consciousness of the Christ, trusting that it is so, and so it is. Amen. Amen. All right, so I pulled too many clips, as usual, but we're going to get through them, and I think there's some juicy ones in here, so I'm going to dive right in. And I'm just setting this one up that this is talking about, you had asked the question of like, what's the new thought agenda? And so I wanted to pull that. I thought that was powerful.
New thought agenda. Help people discover and understand the presence of God within them and how consciousness, working through God as divine principle, creates life experiences. If I had to sum it up in one thing, what's our agenda, that would be it. This is why New Thought teaches you to turn within to the presence of God within you. When we say turn within, we don't mean put your attention on some physical thing. Turning your attention within means stop putting your attention out here and put your attention and intention to your own being. So when you pull your attention back to your body, it's just symbolic of pulling your mind back. Everything taught is for the mystical realization of God within your own being.
Okay. So lots of things in that juicy segment. So this idea that what we're here is to help people to discover and understand the presence of God within them. Tell me what got you to this particular statement of what the new thought agenda is.
Well, as I stated in the sermon, as I was preparing for the lesson sermon, I started to ask myself the why questions. Like, why teach this? Why is it important? What do we want people to get from these lessons? And I started to think about it. Okay, well, CUT is a part of a larger movement, the New Thought movement. Mm-hmm. Okay, what is the New Thought agenda? Just in general, not just for the 12 powers, but in general, what is it that we seek to do? And then when I started playing around with the definitions, no offense to anyone or anybody that was a predecessor, I didn't feel as though that it was ever clearly stated in a way that I could speak to the 2024 mind, not without a whole bunch of high level jargon that wouldn't necessarily translate today
Mm-hmm.
unless you have some level of depth in your studying. So I was like, okay, I'm going to create a simple statement to say, okay, New Thought's agenda is to do what? And that's what came out of it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's simple, it's direct. I'm not saying it's exhaustive by no stretch of the imagination, but what it will do is make a person that's in our movement say, am I directing people to the presence of God within them? Am I teaching how consciousness working through God is divine principle or divine law, whatever term a person wants to use, helps create life experiences? Because when it's all said and done, I believe that's what people come to us for.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And if your life isn't changing, right. It seems when you've been studying this for a long time, it seems very like, oh, of course, everybody wants a better life. But that's not necessarily what each religious tradition is aimed at, right? And so, because many are talking about a life in an afterlife, as opposed to your better life now. And so I think that the urgency of the New Thought message for me is that there is God wanting to reveal itself through you right now. And that's an urgent call. That's an urgent call on each of our lives. And so it is your responsibility to tap in, to hear it, to perceive it, to accept it, and to express it. So I think that there is that intention, that agenda setting was powerful, and I think we all have to do that. And it actually it inspired. I taught a Bible class last night, and one of the inspirations from that lesson came as we were talking about the Holy Spirit. And I gave my students the soul work of like, why call on the Holy Spirit? What's the purpose of the Holy Spirit? Just so that you can be mindful of the words that you're using and the things that you're doing, as opposed to just doing them rotely because that's what you do when you're having a spiritual practice.
Yes, an agenda.
Yes.
Everyone should have an agenda for their life and and the reason why they do the things that they do. And I think too much of living is just random and chaotic from the standpoint of chaotic, not necessarily meaning bad. It just has no structure or intention to go somewhere, just existing. Okay. Now, if I'm going to do this, what's the intention behind it? If you tell me to sit down and meditate for 20 minutes a day, what's the reason for that?
Right.
It has to have, I need an agenda, because if not, then I'm doing something, but I don't even know what I'm really looking for. Am I trying to calm down? Am I trying to reduce my stress? Which is great. I'm trying to, reduce blood pressure or whatever. That's great. But some people want to have visions and dreams. Some people want to move energy forces in their body.
Right.
People have different intentions. And depending on your intention will determine where your mind goes. Because we tell people where your attention goes, your power flows.
Right.
That means you have to have an agenda,
right?
Because the power is going to wherever you're putting your attention and intention anyway.
Exactly. May as well go to where you really want it to be.
Yeah.
All right. So this, I'm looking at my list over here because, like I said, I pulled 1,000 clips at first, and I started cutting them because at some point we can just listen to the whole sermon again. Like at some point, I pulled enough clips where that's what we're doing.
I feel honored to give you enough material to pull. That matters. Can I just say this really quickly?
Yeah.
One of my agendas, my current agendas, is every time I speak, it's a seminal work. In the academic setting, a seminal work is what people go back to and refer to as something that is authoritative, not from the standpoint because it's me, because the information is so good. Like if I want to understand about this 12 power concept and wisdom, let me go back to listen to this because it will be authoritative. It will be a seminal work. It'll be something that other people can come back, students, maybe even when I'm long gone out of this physical body, and say, you know what? The way this guy taught this made sense and helped me move from A to B or A to Z. So that's one of my goals. I don't want to open my mouth and people don't get depth that matters to me.
I love it. I love it. That is a powerful intention. I can see it now in the sense of definitely the past 3 or 4 lessons that I've worked on with you. I definitely see a deeper intention at play. All right, so this clip is I called it Use God. I'm just gonna play it. I'll play it.
Okay.
You, the image and likeness of God, uses God's spirit. All right? You, as the image and likeness of God, uses the intelligence of God, God's awareness of being, to express an identity and a physical you based upon your level of understanding and awareness. We can get fooled and mesmerized by the information downloads and overloads that's coming from the world, trying to convince us that we're less than who we are. We think we're the job loss or the money loss or the health challenge or the divorce or the breakup and all this other stuff. But really, spiritually, you're my idea of myself, as I see myself in the ideal. And you are the law of my mind, executing that idea.
So I think that what I enjoyed about this clip is this idea about using the power. You are to use the God stuff. Like that's what you do. And identity for me, I'm big on love. I'm big on loving yourself, loving God, and understanding that relationship in a way that can benefit your life. And I think that this idea of using that God stuff, because you are that God works through you, through the law of mind action. And what a responsibility and what a privilege and what a power that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, when I pulled that old Fillmore quote, which I hadn't used in quite some time. Let me just first of all put that out there. I was looking for something else, and how your book's highlighted, and I was reading the book and I saw it was highlighted. And Reverend Boyd used to have us way back in the day, 30 years ago, would have us write prescription signs in our books when something was very important. And I was turning the book and I stopped and I saw the prescription signs. So let me just stop and read this. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for the setting I was trying to create before I got to the wisdom faculty, that it boils down to knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, then you can recognize that it's all God. You're an identity. Reverend Coleman used to say, I'm an idea walking around in the mind of God. What she was really saying was, I am an identity. Mm-hmm. I'm an identity. Okay, but it's all God. It's God's spirit, it's God's mind, it's God's body, it's all God. But we don't look at it from that standpoint because we're paying attention to the world from a finite sense. Right. And that makes it difficult to recognize, hey, me who is trying to figure out how to pay this bill, or me that's struggling with the transition of a loved one, can view themselves as an expression of divinity. It's hard to do that when you're going through the human struggles. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And listen, that's the power of understanding what these inner faculties are. Mm-hmm. We're focused today on wisdom, and so again, just in terms of the establishing so far, is that we're looking at, you establish an intent, right? Orderly knowledge, and so now we set an intention for why this is important. So I think in this clip you define wisdom, and I'm going to play that, and and then we'll go into a Johnny Coleman story. So I'm gonna play those back to back.
Okay.
What is inspiration? It is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. Inspire is the root word for inspiration. And inspire comes from an old Latin word that means to breathe or blow into. Inspiration is God's creative wisdom giving you an idea a vision, an action to accomplish. All creativity is God breathing inspiration into your conscious awareness. Your dream is God's breath filling you up. The desire to succeed is God's breath filling you up.
I want to stop there. What do you think about this idea of why people don't take their dreams seriously? I think it's that statement that you made, that it's God breathing. Like, you must not know that.
Right. If you don't know, then you don't know. And again, it goes back to value. One of the things that I often tell people in New Thought that I think is radical is that we teach that there's something radically right about the human being. New Thought starts from the basic premise that there's something right about you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And because we think that there's something right about you, that means that which can potentially come out of you can be absolutely magnificent. Now, I'm not a New Thought spiritual person that keeps my head in the sand or a hole like an ostrich. I recognize that human beings can be the whole spectrum of everything. That's what unlimited potential is.
Right.
However, if I really believe that my dream, my goal, my deep desire to express some good is literally the creative force of God working through my soul, then I will value it differently. But if I don't value myself, I'm not going to necessarily value something that comes from me. Like, who am I? You have people, who am I to say? Who am I to do? We play with these mental gymnastics of negativity, pessimism, resignation, that disrupt our ability to express these God-given attributes. I believe that a lot of it is not so much even negativity, it's fear, it's value. In other words, do you believe you're worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe you're worthy? And I believe a lot of it is resignation. In other words, what difference will it make?
Right. And not understanding how important you are. I talk about this idea of unity, that one of the expressions of love is harmony. And that you expressing yourself in your fullness it brings harmony to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how important you are.
That's right.
When you listen to a choir and there's people who are off key, you can tell, right? You can absolutely tell. But if you're singing your song, your note, there's a harmony. And I think that sometimes when we're looking at the chaos and confusion that can be present in the world, we think that I don't know how to change that. But the full expression of you brings harmony into the universe. Right. That's how we shift from the chaos. It may not be that you're out there fighting the power, you know what I mean? But you just release your inner splendor. That creates harmony.
Well, yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about a church we know. I can't remember the name of the church right now, so I don't want to butcher that. But he was talking about how the church did a 24-hour prayer vigil. And I thought that was really great, because vibrationally, what did that do? And it wasn't online. It was show up. This is your hour slot, and your job is to hold the space for that hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was done for 24 hours straight. Now, I don't know what the results will be, but here's what I'm present to. Not only did it shift whatever they were trying to shift, I don't know what the intention was for that prayer vigil. It could have been peace in the streets. It could have been to raise money for the church so they could do the next big thing. It could have been healing for the people, peace of mind. But I do know anybody that participated in that is different than they were before, because they were coming into a consciousness and they were helping to create a consciousness of wholeness. So everything is different. So even people who didn't necessarily participate will walk into a space and vibrationally shift. Yeah. Because it's available for them. And I think that that's part of recognizing that I use terms like vibration for lack of terms, because you were talking about harmony. There's alignment and there's misalignment, and being a part of something like that can help realign what has been out of alignment.
Right.
And those are the type of things that I just like, oh man, I wanted, when he told me about it, I was like, man, that's really a great idea. You know, I was playing with in my head, like, you know, see you tee it up. I haven't,
Yeah.
we'll see.
No, it's a rich idea.
Yeah.
I had the privilege of hanging out with Reverend Kevin Ross this past weekend, and one of the things that we talked about, because I don't think I had to listen to your entire sermon by the time we were hanging out, but the piece that I listened to, you know how just some fact of a story you've heard before jumps out, and so the emphasis that you put on Johnny's story, her healing story, in terms of what was the inciting incident, so to speak, for her moving into ministry and ultimately founding the ministries that we are part of, was a diagnosis, and that she was given 6 months to live. And I've heard that story. But what you brought to light in this one was that she was 32. And I think that so that jumped out to me, that if as an older person, you may say, oh, you're getting older. And that's how I encountered Johnny in her agelessness, right? But she was definitely in the part of her life where defining the age was so prevalent and obvious. When you haven't been on the planet that long, it's kind of a taken for granted thing, right? So 32, I thought about myself just last year when I was 32, that man, that type, like the emphasis in terms of what that would feel like.
Right.
And the fear, the anger, all of the feelings that would come from getting that type of diagnosis.
Yes.
And what she did with it, that changed the world.
Yes. And I think that's the beauty of it. You know, back in the day, nobody really knew her real age because you had to be exceptionally close to her to even know her age. But I figured, like, okay, I came to the church in 93 and the church started in 56 and she had to be trained before that. So I figured she was in the young woman's age range until, I found out her age before she passed away, but when I remember at the time saying, man, she was only 32. And I remember that like really sticking out in my brain, like, but I never talked about it from that perspective. I ain't gonna say never. I don't know if at the time I wasn't gonna talk about her age. When I found out, obviously, how she was. I'm the age of God, life of God that knows no age. You were gonna get a whooping for that. But but I thought it was necessary with this lesson to show what inspiration really could do from somebody that we all, if you're a part of a UFBL church, or sometimes even a larger New Thought movement, and sometimes even not even New Thought. Johnny Coleman was a worldwide known minister in her day. What does it look like? And think about yourself at age 32. Still trying to figure some things out. Yeah, you got some things, some people are ahead of others. But to be told you have 6 months, which I also wanted to emphasize, when they tell you that, that means up to.
Right.
Okay.
Let me stop you. I'm going to play it because this part I don't think I caught all of that. But this you asked a pivotal question, and I wanted to make sure I get to that.
Okay.
Get your life affairs in order. You have up to 6 months to live. She bumps into her mother's Unity magazine that was on a nightstand. And the magazine fell open. You know how God works. She saw the words on the page. You know what? It was a poem called The Prayer of Faith. And she only saw one line in the poem. And that one line in the poem she saw was, God is my health. I can't be sick. What has God inspired you to do? What creative act is waiting on your permission and action? What has God placed in your heart to do?
So those two questions, I think, is something for us to all sit with. Really, what did God place on your heart to do? At that moment, those choices led her to go to Unity, and we know the story from there. But when you think about the story, it can feel separate and apart from you. But the question brings it back to, right now, the wisdom of God is flowing through you. I didn't throw the definition up there, being that wisdom is the idea in divine mind of orderly knowledge. So that idea is constantly impressed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, there is the wisdom of God wanting to express through you, but can only do so by your permission, by your yes.
Yes, yes. The yes is necessary. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I think Les Brown got right many years ago. I've borrowed this so many times, it's not even funny at this point.
It's about to be yours in a minute.
Yeah. But Les was known in the late 80s and early 90s primarily for a statement. If you go back and remember enough, he would say, it's possible. Sometimes you can't say, I know I can do it. But you can say, it's possible. It just opens the door for the potential to work through you.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to give a definite yes. But you can open the door with it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that God's wisdom is inspiring me. It's possible that God's wisdom is leading me. It's possible that God's intelligence is working through me. It's possible. And just from that perspective, it opens up opportunity for God. And it's not, again, some superhuman type being in the sky. We're talking about this omnipresence that localizes as you.
Right.
I didn't see that last quote. What was that? That was,
oh, this one? Okay.
We're still learning. Oh, that's cool. Hey,
yes,
Candace,
yes.
Tell your daughter I said hey. All right. All right.
Yeah, while we're answering questions in the chat, I do. Myra is asking, how do I get the other segments? So you can find all of the Sunday rewinds on the YouTube page. It's CU Temple, YouTube's page, Facebook page, and you can also invite yourself to the collective. And I'll put that address up in a moment, and you can join the collective, and they all run there as well.
Yeah,
so
and please watch the whole sermon. If you're just seeing this, go back and watch the whole sermon on the CU Temple, Christ Universal Temple Facebook page is CU Temple.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's called The Wisdom to Succeed. I hope.
Yeah, you'll enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah, and I just saw our brother, Reverend Kevin Ross.
Oh, Reverend Kevin. I just shouted you out. Shouted you out,
brother. God bless you.
Yeah. Yeah, he said, what is God calling and inspiring that each and all of us to do? Yes. Very, very true. All right. So this next clip. So remembering that this sermon is about wisdom, that we got a spotlight on wisdom. We've talked about wisdom as inspiration. And so this next segment is another aspect of wisdom. I'm going to pull up.
Yes, center yourself, but take yourself away from folks. Close the door. Lock yourself away. If you got to sit in the garage in your car or in the parking lot at McDonald's, I don't care where it is, where you don't have the demands of other people pulling on your energy, and center yourself and pray and contemplate and ask God for the inspiration and power that you need to live an empowered life, to deal with what's in front of you. You can't get the inspiration if your mind is too busy. I always remember Reverend Wilmetta Harrell saying to me 31 years ago, God is not going to shout over your mental noise.
So God is not going to shout. Thank you, Reverend Wilmetta Harrell. God is not going to shout over your mental noise. Mm-hmm. You were talking about coming apart in that segment, that we have to come apart and get in alignment so that we can, like you said, pray to get into alignment with God's wisdom. What are some ways that for people starting off coming apart, like what are some suggested ways to get there?
Well, a few things. As I stated in the sermon, you have to find some time for yourself somewhere where you can be hopefully by yourself and without the distractions, which can be difficult. You know, like say, for instance, you have small children and things of that nature. It's very difficult. Let me stop and go meditate in the room when it's kids climbing on your shoulders. That might mean you have to get up a little early to make sure that happens. put the phone down, or if you're going to use the phone, put it on do not disturb, and put some headphones on and do a little bit of meditation time or whatever needs to happen as far as that's concerned. Maybe before you go home, you pull out your daily inspiration or daily word and you read and recalibrate, or before you drive your car to go to work or go to school or whatever, find some time and start off doing it in small time segments and then seek to increase it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this important? It's important because as you slow down your mental processes, so you can be all over the place, but you want to get to the space of developing the ability to concentrate. I'm a big believer that the key to the New Thought teaching in general is concentration. In other words, how can you keep your mind focused on where you want it to be? Which means you have to consistently snatch your mind back. It's all over the place. I got to get this dry cleaning. I got to stop by Target. I got to pick up this for the kids. And all of those things are fine. That's a part of life. But you have to recalibrate yourself. You have to realign yourself. And one of the other keys to this teaching is how quickly can I get my mind back in realignment to the truth of my being?
Right.
Because they're going to be demands. They're going to be responsibilities. But who are you as you are dealing with your demands? Who are you as you're dealing with your responsibilities? And I'm saying the more you learn how to be still and know that I am God, the more you know how to go to your own secret place, the more you know how to set yourself apart for some time, you need to do it. Sometimes it's necessary. I'm going to just give some like real practical ways of doing things. I remember one time I was working through something very serious, and I told everybody that I knew, family and friends that would normally call me after work, I was like, for this week, for 7 days, once I get home from work, I'm turning off my phone. Well, I put it on whatever. I think I turned my phone off. It was no TV, no radio. I picked a couple of books that I wanted to read, and the rest was prayer time, prayer and meditation time. So until I went to sleep, outside of eating, only thing I was doing was prayer and meditation time. And whatever came to me, I wrote. Why was that necessary? Because I needed that realignment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer that we know when we're off. Sometimes we don't catch it soon enough, but eventually when we know we've drifted too far from our center, we have to take radical action to pull ourselves back. So what I would say also is, depending on how far you've drifted from shore, will determine how much effort you need to use to pull yourself back to shore. If you're way off, then you might need to get real radical. Let me, again, shut down for a week. Maybe I need to go get a hotel and say, look, family, loved ones, etc. I love you, but I need to take this 3 days with myself. Or maybe I need to go get on a plane by myself, which I have done. I've gone by myself, gone on a plane, went somewhere. Is that I'm not talking about ministry, work, or anything else that's a responsibility. I'm solely here to work on me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever your process is, and that's why I said, if you don't have anywhere else to go, then park in the parking lot of McDowell's, go do that. Sit in your car and pray. Just do it somewhere where you feel comfortable and safe to be able to study, to be able to pray, and whatever. Okay, I see this McDonald's Popeyes thing, the love and the wisdom, the chicken and the biscuit. I know. Look, you got to find ways for people to relate.
Listen, I know you're doing these hungry sermons.
For those who watch this, this is 2 sermons in running. I probably will just keep the theme going since
fast food snacks. So I dig the idea of coming apart, and I want to emphasize this because sometimes when you are hearing from someone who has been experiencing the truth for a long time, who've been consciously working on their spiritual growth, their practice can seem overwhelming to you. Mm-hmm. But I want to reassure you that start where you are, that it is through your breathing. It is through sitting in a parking lot for a moment before you walk into a place, just to center yourself and breathe. Because sometimes it's like we're walking into thing to thing, doing thing to thing, and there's never a moment where you just collect yourself. You charge your cell phone throughout the day, right? We'll do that. We'll say, hey, my battery's low. Let me charge up because I know it's gonna be so long before I can charge again. And it's like, what about you? What about you and your spiritual charge?
Yeah, and I think I relate it to martial arts. I've had people who ask me, well, teach me karate or teach me kung fu, some kid or whatever. And I'll say, okay, horse stance. Why you haven't, they want to learn how to punch and kick and spin and jump. Can you stand correctly? Can you be in balance? So these little practices of making sure you have your prayer and meditation time, making sure that you're reading something inspiring, making sure you're listening to something inspiring. Figure out what you need to do, but learn to set aside time daily for your own spiritual well-being. You'll get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yes, yes. All right. So this next clip I'm going to play talks about how the powers work together, and you did talk about this in your sermon on love. But I want to share this because I think that the mind-body connection is so important, and I love the way I love how you shared this part. Let me pull it in. Welcome, Michael.
In metaphysical Bible interpretation, when two people are close relatives like brothers, that can mean that those ideas are supposed to work in unison. For instance, Peter symbolizes faith, and his brother Andrew symbolizes strength. This tells us that faith and strength are supposed to work together. When you see what you see in faith, you must have the strength of conviction to hold in your mind. In the same way, love balances out judgment. Love needs to always have good judgment with it. And love helps soften judgment. In the concept of the 12 powers, judgment functions from the pit of the stomach and love from the back of the heart. Whatever decisions you make can often be felt in your gut and affect your heart.
So I thought that the idea of love and wisdom connection, and then the body connection, was a refresher for me. I remember reading that, but just to hear it again and think of the connection that we can feel in our body when there's wisdom trying to come through, and we can feel that, that gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ignored your gut feeling over some time, you may not trust it,
right,
and just may be disconnected from it. So this was a powerful reminder, I think, of how beautiful we're made, right? We got these internal cues too, physical cues to help us realign with the truth.
Yes. It does make a difference. And I was just trying to make sure that people understand the relation of how ideas work together.
Mm-hmm.
That, because sometimes we think, well, I'm working with my wisdom now, and then you're ignoring imagination and power or faith, etc. All right, these ideas are supposed to work together. These faculties are supposed to work together. And the scripture said Jesus sent them out by twos. We have to start to look at how they work together. Now, one of the ways in which I define 12 powers, that's a little bit different from some people, is I believe that it's a way of explaining how total consciousness works. In other words, okay, it doesn't mean that I'm using it as a metaphor. In other words, if I understand how these faculties, faith, this strength, this love, this wisdom, this power, imagination, et cetera, work in me, what I'm really learning how to do is master my own being. It's teaching me how to develop my consciousness spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously it has other dynamics to go along with it, as I explained a couple of weeks ago. It's a divine idea spiritually, mentally it's a faculty, and it has a vehicle of expression to a part of the body,
mm-hmm.
which I'm not going to drill down on that because that wasn't a part of this sermon. But the idea behind it is, if I'm a threefold being, then every aspect of me, how does it work in that threefold being part of me? Like if I have sight, then what does that look like mentally? Perception. What does that look like spiritually? Faith. These are things that we need to start looking at differently.
Mm-hmm. 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 Very good. Yeah, I taught. See, look at that. This. There's just one mind. That was a big part of my class yesterday. We talked about the Trinity and how the Trinity manifests itself in every way. And I think that that may be something you need to put on the things to write list, is to really focus on the threefold nature of these qualities, these powers.
Yeah.
Somebody. All right.
Gotta do it, huh? Yeah.
Somebody got to do it. Mr. Seminal work. Okay, so this clip is are we talking about qualities
Could
of
you pull up
wisdom?
Kevin's quote
What
comment
is oh
before we
sure,
do
sure,
that?
sure,
Because I think it's
sure.
really important. He
He
made a
said it's
great
key
point.
that we understand how the faculties are to interact and intersect. Each faculty, when paired with its right partner, optimizes the other and enriches the total lived experience. Absolutely.
Thanks, Rev Kev. All right.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, so this Kev's on the line. Look, this might need to be a collab, right? And we just knock this book out to talk about how to, because this doesn't exist.
Yes.
Not in any of the books I've read where there's a real focus on how they work together on their threefold nature. Okay. All right. It's out there in the atmosphere now. Okay. So this next, so I'm talking about the wisdom. We're talking about wisdom. And so you're talking about the idea of wisdom as discernment, the quality of wisdom as discernment.
Okay.
And this idea of these principle-centered questions I thought was really potent. So I'm going to share this clip.
Discernment is the ability not to rely upon facts, but upon principles in decision making. Discernment means you are a principle-centered thinker. It means that you know how to face facts with truth. You have to ask simple spiritual questions when you use discernment. Questions like, what is the truth about God in this situation? That's a great question to ask. Okay, you get what the world calls bad news. What's the truth about God in this situation? What are you doing? You're pulling your thinking, your thoughts and feelings back to truth.
So this is important because you mentioned this earlier about snatching your mind back. And so snatching your mind back to what?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
It is what's true about God.
Yes, what's true about God. Because sometimes, again, talking about value, a person might not see themselves as a divine being yet, but most people view God as divine if they have a belief in God. Mm-hmm. Therefore, asking yourself the question, what is true about God in this situation? At least refocuses the mind. Again, it opens up the door of possibility for more to come through, but you have to at least open the door. What's true about God? What's true about me? I don't know if you're going to play that part of the clip. What's true about me in this situation? Okay, who am I in God and who is God in me in this experience? And when we start to ask those type of questions, we open ourselves up to revelation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this what is true about God, and again, your question for yourself might be different, right? Sometimes I'll just say, what's good? All right, what's good? What's good right now? Like, can I just perceive good in the midst of whatever I'm going through right now? What's the good? What's happening that's good? What's good can I see? Because I want to call it forward. Some, it doesn't even have to be present in the physical, right? But what good will I see? Right. Okay, so this last segment, I also just want to acknowledge myself for getting us through all of these clips where I still have time to talk about intuition at the end. So this is me patting myself on the back. So this particular clip, you give I think some really really clear examples of how intuition works, what it is, and how it works. So there were two different aspects of intuition. I think I pulled, you might have given three, but I pulled two. So here we go with number one. And this is intuition as your early warning system.
Everyone has intuition, but I believe most people ignore it. Intuition functions in primarily two ways. How many ways? Let's put up two fingers. How many? All right. What's the first way? The first way is intuition is your early warning system. It will tell you, often through a feeling, that something is wrong or off. That's intuition. It will warn you not to go somewhere when you don't have a good reason not to go. It will warn you to avoid certain people, even when you don't have a good reason to avoid them. You will get a strong feeling to get away from them? Are you paying attention to your early warning system that's telling you something about the energy of these people, of this space, of this situation is off, and I don't need to touch it, I don't need to be around it, I need to be away from it, and I need to put these 2 feet in action and get away from it? That's intuition.
So you're talking about the spidey sense, this early warning system.
Yeah, that was a part of the clip that they didn't see.
Yes.
I refer to my intuition as my spidey senses tingling, like from the old Spider-Man cartoons and comics, because it makes sense to me. Like, okay, something is warning me that something is off.
Yeah.
That's a part of intuition, not all of intuition, but it is a part of it.
So when you talked about the when I first listened to the clip, I was like, oh man, he misspoke in this clip. I'm not going to pull this piece, because you had said that it is that detection system. It is the telling you not to go somewhere that you have no reason not, to not go to, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I said, well, no, I don't know. But then it hit me that there's just no evidence for why you shouldn't do something, right? That your intuition is guiding you, and we've all had that. There's no logical reason for me not to do that. Why am I getting a warning not to do something? But there's no reason. Everything looks good over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I learned this early, and I can remember at times, growing up as a young black male on the south side of Chicago. The guys in the neighborhood, we hung out in packs, and there were times when they wanted to do something. Hey, we're going to go to the bus, get on the bus, and go here. We're going to all walk over here to this other neighborhood, this park, to do something. And I would feel something, and I was like, I'm not going. Oh, you doing it again? I was like, I'm going home. And then the next day, I would see them at school or at the park or at another buddy's house, and something happened.
Something happened.
I had no evidence. It was. As I reflect back now, I realized that I was learning how to trust my intuition. That, okay, we all going to the roller rink, and I'm like, I don't want to go. And I have a reason not to go. And then, the guys in the neighborhood get jumped on by some gangbangers, and they take the starter coats and hats and whatever. That type of stuff was being avoided just by me paying attention to my own energy, like, my spidey sense is tingling. And now I believe it's necessary to stop, especially in ministry, because a situation can seem like it's not a big deal, and then it ends up being something way more because you didn't pay attention to it. So in ministry, it's not just what you do, it's also what you don't do, what you avoid, and including as you're leading people. So it's important, again, to stop, get still, make sure you're in alignment. So this aspect of your intuition can always be in play, because, people show up at churches and they make promises, and we want to do this with the community, and we want to do whatever. And all of it seems legit, but your intuition is telling you this is a hustle.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, many times when people have come to the church with whatever their various hustle is, they'll see me and I'm like, yeah, it's going nowhere. So,
but I think it's also the things too where I don't know what could have happened.
Right.
Like, I don't get the benefit of knowing, with friends, and they went and I didn't. I can see what they went through. There are just some things I know that I'm just not to do that or go make that turn. One of the little things when we talk about trying to find a parking spot, my intuition sometimes is around traffic. I live in Los Angeles, and it'll be, take La Brea instead. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. That's not the quickest way to go. Right. And I'll do it because I have not listened to that before and end up in some crazy, unexpected traffic, So this wisdom is always working. And I think that if you practice it, like people talking about getting a parking spot, if that's the thing you want, is a good practice, right? For how to listen to inner guidance. Traffic, good practice, right? Because you keep practicing this, because these experiences God is always always making impressions in you, always connected.
Yeah,
So yeah, the traffic in the parking spot are some low hanging fruit.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He was a beloved person to both of us, the Reverend Herbert Lassiter, who was at
yes,
one point CUT staff minister here, and he and his wife went and started another ministry in UFBL at one time. He's deceased now. He used to say that it's easier to be a presenter of truth than it is to be a practitioner of truth. And I think that's where we sometimes lose it. I often bring that back to my mind, that conversation. And I'm not saying he only told it to me. I'm sure he taught that to many people. How do you practice truth?
yeah,
And learning to pay attention to your intuition is one of the ways in which you practice truth. Obviously, not the only. Love and other things, obviously, seeing and faith, etc. The actions, how you use your words, all those things are ways to practice truth. But we need to just be mindful that this new thought message can't be theoretical. Yeah. And because what ends up happening is it turns into a noun instead of a verb. It should be put in action. All right. There's this new thought, and then there's me. No, there's this new thought as me. I am the activity of this message in expression. I am the gospel. I am the good news in expression in how I think and feel and speak and act and react. This is a shift in perception because I'm making sure that I'm practicing. I'm not just reading about it. I'm not just hearing a good sermon or even as powerful as this conversation is. One of the things that I think is lost in the New Thought movement, and I'll stand 10 toes on this, what I'm about to say, is we're so great at giving information that we don't necessarily give action steps to, in other words, what do you want people to do with this information? It's a reason why I give homework in my sermons. It's a reason why I'm so strong in my direction. I'm not trying to tell people what to do per se, quote unquote. It's the message that we teach is to be utilized to accomplish something. So if you have the intention that people are going to take this message to go do something with it, then it's not just Charles Fillmore said this, Ernest Holmes said this, Neville Goddard said this, Johnny Coleman said this, Reverend Ike said this. It's okay. They said this, and this is how you apply it. Now, this is what I want you to go do with it.
right.
Now,
Right.
when you go do something with it, you will discover options and opportunities, etc., because you'll get your own inspiration. You'll get your own intuitive hits. The intelligence of God will work through you. But often we don't necessarily, we're great at information, but in my opinion, we need to be greater at saying, this is what I want you to do with it. Be very directive, because when you're dealing with, and excuse me when I say this term, and I'm not insulting anyone when I say this, but for a lot of people, this information is new. Then they're beginners.
Right.
All right. So when you give somebody a beginner something, you just can't give them the information. You got to give them a way in which they can use it. All right. So going back to martial art training, most martial arts, when you learn the style, they teach you some basic stances, punch, block, kick. But what they do is they give you a beginner form. It's not complicated. And that form might take 2 minutes to do. Block, punch, hand, knee, elbow. It's real simple, but it gives you something that you can repeat over and over again. But as you're repeating it over and over again, you're building skills. So as we're telling people, work with these denials, work with these affirmations, take 5 minutes and visualize this, speak these words, etc. Take time to meditate, center yourself on your heart, or whatever. Charles Fillmore was telling people to go to the crown of the head, and I go here, and I go here, and I go there. What is he doing? He's teaching people these fundamental steps that they can build on. It's like learning the alphabet. This is how I look at religion in general. It's like learning the alphabet. It's only 26 letters in the English alphabet. But how many variations of words can you produce out of those 26 letters? Now, you might have one good sermon that you've heard, But how many variations can you create out of the ideas that are in one sermon to produce that health, to produce the peace, to produce the success, to produce the prosperity, to produce the joy, to produce the love, to produce the harmony and the well-being? You have to look at it like an alphabet, or like numbers. Is 0 through 9, and everything else. Math is infinite. The alphabet is infinite, because you can always build on the basics. If we get people to start to practice the basics, they'll create new words. That's what we want for you.
Yeah.
Create your own words. In other words, your own life experiences out of the basic principles that we're teaching you. Hopefully that made sense.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we still got to get to the intuition, second part of intuition, as I'll probably absorb that time now.
No. I'm still winning. Winning. But so no, I'm gonna play this, but I definitely want to just echo the practice. This is a practical Christianity, and so I hope that even in hearing this last segment, that you, if you hadn't already, find the piece that you're going to practice.
Yes.
Intuition is also your navigation system to your good and success. When you set a goal or have a big dream, often you won't know all the steps needed to achieve it. Sometimes it's hard to see all the moving parts that come and go when it's time to achieve a goal. When you set a destination in your navigation system, like iMaps or Google Maps, the navigation system gives you the best route to your destination. That's what intuition does. It will guide you to take very specific actions to achieve your goals.
So GPS happens to be one of my favorite God metaphors, like just one of my favorites. And this idea, though, of the precision of it, like that's what jumped out for me, was the precision of the directions.
Right.
So just like I said, you got to go listen to the sermon. That's number one, right? Because there's always, of course, much more contextually. But share with us a little bit about the just the aspects of using considering your intuition as your internal guidance system, your navigation system.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, one of the things about navigation, I've learned in Chicago, even though I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I will use my navigation to drive to places that I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
How do I do it? A couple of reasons. Obviously, Chicago is one of those construction cities. 2, now we're also one of those cities that have red light cameras and speed cameras and whatever. And you don't realize you're 6 miles an hour over. Now you got a $100 ticket. So I was like, you know what? There are things that I'm not aware of that's in this space that didn't be in this space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I can rely on my memory. I can rely on what I think is my expertise, or I can have access to something that can pull all the information in real time that can help me say, okay, I thought this is the fastest way to get here, but I don't know about the traffic jam on 95th Street by Stony Island. I need to go another way.
Right.
Even though in my mind, that's always been the quickest way. Well, intuition works the same way. I have a goal. I have an intention. You have a goal. You have an intention. And you want to get to a particular destination. And you might not necessarily see all of the potential obstacles to get there, but intuition can. So it'll navigate you around things. Again, as you said earlier, I don't even know what I avoided. There are times when you avoid things towards your good, towards your goal, that you don't even realize, because it's guiding you in the proper direction to attain the thing that you say you desire. Mm-hmm. This is why it's necessary to have intention. You can't get somewhere when you don't have a goal to get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and we're not all starting from the same point. So depending on, we can have a similar goal and get 2 totally different directions, because I'm trying to get to downtown. I'm trying to get to the John Hancock building, but I'm coming from the south side of Chicago. Somebody else might be coming from the west side of Chicago. Somebody else might be coming from the north side of Chicago. That's why what Reverend Sheree gets or Reverend Kevin Ross gets might not necessarily be right for me. I need to pay attention to how God in me is guiding me toward my goal. What often people end up doing is, what would you do? Or how would you handle this? Or what did God say to you? Okay, that was for me. That doesn't mean that's for you. I literally told a loved one this yesterday because I got the "what would you do" question. I said, well, one, I don't have to live with the consequences of you saying I did what he would do. Two, I'm a big believer that our responses are dependent and determined primarily by our level of understanding. I might be able to respond in a particular way that you might not, because we're not at the same level of understanding, or you might be higher than me, because there are people who are making choices about success, money, health, well-being, etc., that are beyond my current capacity to understand. That's why I love to use the analogy of the gym. When I go in the gym, I'm doing the basic stuff. I'm on the treadmill, I'm on the regular machines, but those guys that are doing this heavy lifting, does my body have the capacity to do that in potential? Yes, but not right now in physical reality. I have to develop that. Well, it's the same thing with my intuition. My intuition might guide me to take certain steps that make sense for me at my level of understanding. God is not going to meet you where you're not. Let me repeat that. God is not going to meet you where you're not. He's not going to tell you to make Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk decisions when it comes to money. That's not where you are. God will meet you and guide you where you are for your next step, your next evolution. But again, as Reverend Ike used to say, you must be definite with the infinite. If I get on the elevator in the John Hancock and I want to go, they got rid of the restaurant. I used to be a restaurant called the Signature Room on the top of the John Hancock building. When I would go there, I would hit the button, the elevator would take me where I needed to go. But guess what? Many of us are riding an elevator when we've not pressed the button. So the elevator is just sit still. The power to take us to the floor we want to be at is available, but we haven't activated the power, or we're working with somebody else's power, somebody else's intuition, somebody else's guidance, and we end up on somebody else's floor.
Yes,
hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is it's so much good here, so much good here. I wanted to pull out just a piece of what Rev Kev said about the simple practice of being in tune with and responding to intuitive prompts is a conscious way of being spiritual. So this is like not necessarily having a whole religious paradigm behind it, but just learning to respond, to be perceptive and respond to your own intuitive prompts is really powerful, your own internal GPS. And whatever you name, however you name it, maybe it's your gut, maybe it's however you want to name it, right? But knowing that it is always active in you, it is always guiding you, and to be mindful of that, because a lot of people come to me all my life. That's been a part of my magnet, is that people come to me for stuff, for wisdom, for insight, and I can share. But I always say that it should inspire. And I love when I will say something and the person says, I know now, and it's not anything of what I said, right? What I did, though, that idea of inspiration inspired them to hear what they needed to hear. And so that's why I say, I know that there is something in this lesson that will spark that revelation for you, whether it's a direct something that we said, or again, that it just paved the way for your own revelation. I trust that in these times that we have together. And I am so grateful for this time. This is an exciting series. This is the fourth installment, week 4 of this 12-part series that'll be going throughout the summer. And so I'm gonna let you close out in a moment. I was one thing you made me forget. Go ahead.
So as you're recalibrating this, as Rev Kev talked about, is learn something simple. I go back and, I'm a movie buff. You know that. I love action movies, almost to, kung fu movies, etc. So in Kill Bill 2, I'm not saying it's a good movie for good Christian folks to watch, but I love the analogy. So when Uma Thurman's character, the bride, was learning martial arts from the kung fu grandmaster Pai Mei, he had her hitting a piece of wood over and over again. And of course it was hurting her hand. And he said, your hand fears the wood, and the wood should fear you. And she's trying to figure out, why am I doing this one thing? Okay. But then in the movie, she gets buried alive. And she's in this casket on this dirt, and it comes back to her. Hit this wood. Because she didn't have a lot of room. It was like a 1-inch punch. And just doing this one punch over and over again was able to break the casket. And she was able to dig herself out of the situation. Why am I sharing this? You don't have to have the whole philosophical understanding of what it means to be a New Thought Christian. Get one thing that you're really going to work. And you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to work this visualization thing till I've squeezed all of the water out of it. I'm going to work this affirmation thing until I squeeze all of the juice out of it. I'm going to work whatever that one thing is. I'm going to sit still and meditate for 20 minutes a day, no matter what. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to get mindful. I don't care what it is. Find one thing that you're going to be completely dedicated to, just like that 1-inch punch. Because when you need it, it'll be the thing that works and gets you out of the trouble, out of the breakdown, out of the situation. Because having a lot of theoretical information and working with your hypothesis will not get you out of real world situations. It's what you have practiced. You are only as good as your practice.
Yes. That is a closing word from the hardcore metaphysician, the Reverend Gaylon McDowell.
Did you remember what you wanted to share?
I do not. And it's okay. It is okay. But this series is hot. And so I do want to encourage you all to go to our YouTube page to tap in. And of course, if you want to come to Facebook and come on in and join the collective, we are here creating dynamic conversations, and it's growing. We're just getting started, really. And so I'm grateful for those of you who are joining week over week, and but do know that the door is open, and we're, like I said, we're getting started, and it's really a community to serve you, because everyone is there's power in where we are. There's a center in Chicago, but there is the collective power that is tapping in from all over the world. And I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be in this community. So join the CUT Collective on Facebook. I had the little link here. I'll throw that up there if you need to find it. And we'll keep these conversations going. Thank you, Rev, for your time today. Next week we're going to be working with the power of, we go from wisdom to power. Is power. Okay. Yeah. We'll be working with power next week. And I think I got Rev Wells. No, I have Gavin. Yeah. Gavin. Okay. So Gavin will be here next week. And I'm laughing because I will not allow Gavin to push. We're going to be here next week with the rewind. And again, thank you so much. God bless you all for your time together. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Thank you all for your time today, for tuning in. Go ahead and share this out with some people that you know, so that we can continue to enlighten and inspire other people to recognize and realize who they are spiritually. God bless you real good. Thank you so much, Rev, for being in here. Me and Rev Kevin rolling together for the past few days. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, brother, for sharing with us, and everyone. I see the different names of the different people. I'm sure I'm gonna miss some people, Candace and Deborah and Dodd, and I think I saw Myra and Tamika, and so many people. I can't see everybody at one point. I would have to scroll up and down. But the different people who've made comments, thank you for tuning in. Even if I don't know you, I love you because I know who you are. God bless you.
God bless you. God bless you. Be well, everybody.